Talk to entry team. Suspects have a foothold in this area, and they're refusing to cooperate. Entry team, you are cleared to proceed with the mission.
Gold. Post up right side.
Getting into position.
Entry denied.
Man the door. Deploy flashbangs.
With me. Preaching. Searching the closet.
Get down and keep your hands up.
Talk to entry team. Medical assistance is standing by.
Police, get down!
Don't move.
Suspect far right, diner. Moving!
Crossfire.
Moving.
Police, hands up.
Copy that, entry team. Number 5
Suspect.
Drop the weapon.
Hey, right there. Got the AK. Got the AK right there.
Let's lethal!
Hands up, asshole! Now!
Entry team.
I cannot see his hands. He's tweaking.
Counter aggression.
Moving. I'm opening up ahead.
Crap. Oh my god.
Ready or Not, developed by Void Interactive back in 2016, is a tactical first-person shooter in the FPS genre. Like all FPSs, it seems to have your run-of-the-mill shooting mechanics, scoreboard, weapon, and character customizations as to be expected of the modern era of gaming. But like most in the tactical FPS genre, it does a lot differently than your typical shooter. The game makes you, the player, more vulnerable. There is no running in this game. You walk at a normal pace, slow down depending on the type of body armor you have. Your health bar, present in most video games, is replaced with a UI displaying your overall well-being. You are not a superhero, so a hit to any of these extremities affects your overall capabilities, even if you manage to survive. You, like the enemies you face, can be neutralized in just a few hits, so finding cover and taking it slow is the optimal approach. To bridge the gap between you and the enemy force, teammates in the form of NPCs or your online friends can communicate and help navigate through the hazardous environment you find yourself in. In your arsenal, unique to the tactical genre of FPS games, are your tactical equipment. From cameras that let you see under doorways to flashbangs that disorientate any would-be aggressors. If the door is locked, breaching shotguns, C2, battering rams, or old-fashioned kicking down the door should do the trick. Picking the lock with a toolkit or gun if stealth is what tickles your fancy. Your choice of less lethal options are also at your disposal, if you prioritize minimizing the loss of life.
Okay, right there.
Let's lethal!
Hands up, asshole! Now!
But where does a story fit into this? In my 15 years of experience in playing single-player games, the story is either not available at all in its standalone mode, or it's the entire game.
Ain't been out here in a while.
Cutscenes giving you exposition and set pieces, while mesmerizing and spectacular, take the control away from the player. Although all forms of storytelling in video games are perfectly viable when done right, Ready or Not takes a different approach. When you boot up the game and play the first few missions, a story is already being told in front of you. You just have to look. The bulletins, posters, and newspaper, to the garbage and tents laying in the street. Monitors showing emails, text, or company memos are scattered across the map, giving more context to the perps you arrest. Voice recorders, voicemails, audio from camcorders give more character. The writing is literally on the walls. This version of Los Angeles, Los Sueños, is a tragic city through the work strikes, homelessness, drug epidemics, making desperate people even more desperate, creating the situations you find yourself in. All of these alone can link maps together and form cohesive stories, like the CP ring, the spider, and the Left Behind. The most captivating thing that I could dig up was something to do with MK Ultra. MK Ultra was an experiment conducted by the CIA beginning in 1953 and was aimed at finding drugs, namely LSD, that can be used for interrogations, forcing confessions, and to wipe a subject's mind clean and program them as a robot agent through brainwashing and psychological torture by conducting human experiments. The experiments were halted in 1973 and revealed to the public by the Church Committee, a U.S. Senate Select Committee who investigated abuses by the CIA in 1975. The man who, hopefully arrested at Sullivan Slope, Garrett Scott, formerly worked for the USIA, the in-game equivalent of the CIA, and has seemingly gone mad, believing that everyone is watching him and developing a ricin spray in his basement. What you find at his place of residence is creepy to say the least, and through the mission briefing you can find that the reason you were called out to the cabin in the woods was to arrest him for seemingly at random opening fire and killing a few officers in broad daylight.
What we know about the events earlier today is that Gerard Scott set up an ambush by lighting a car on fire near the McCade station. He lay in wait, and when the police arrived, he opened fire on them with a rifle.
But through the voice recorders at his house, you can get a bigger picture.
The stage is set. They wouldn't come to me, so I went to them. They'll send their best now, but it won't be good enough.
Scott worked at the USIA. This is verifiable through the mission brief and the USIA challenge coin found in the evidence room after the raid. He goes on to say that, quote, "Judge will come here. He'll have to. It has to be him. I've seen his training, his methods, part of the cycle just like me. In a never-ending game. I'll show him. When he gets here, show him he's the same puppet as me, trapped in the same sick play." In another tape found in the cabin, he says, quote, "They'll know what it's like to have their mind, their soul, their humanity ripped away from them, just like it was ripped away from me. All they left me was this body, this toy puppet on strings. Suffering, only suffering." Interesting enough, you look closely, there are clippings of newspapers outlining the USIA's use of LSD that Gerard has in his asylum. Perhaps why Scott is the way he is, maybe due part of the game's version of MK Ultra. Does that mean that the player, Judge, is currently in the same program as Scott, which he mentions you being part of the cycle? Does that mean that the USIA is mind controlling members of the police department you work for through drugs like LSD? The game doesn't explicitly say. This story is just the background, the context on why you're blasting down that door and blowing those rooms. But Scott's story isn't the only one in this game, not by a long shot. To keep it short, Radionaut is an excellent game, taking a slower, more methodical take of the FPS genre, requiring you know the basics of room clearing and squad level tactics to get through. If you want to clear rooms and bring order to chaos in the boots of a SWAT officer, then Radionaut is the game for you. But if you want a game with intriguing lore and world building, then there might be a piece of that lore pie in Radionaut as well. You just have to look.